Nexus, your voice in the morning.
Welcome back to the show. Time is now 7:41 and we continue with our next feature. The Institute for Justice and Reconciliation, in partnership with the Netherlands-based War Trauma Foundation, will host an international conference from the 6th to the 8th of May, which will explore the interconnectedness between mental health and peace building. To tell us more, we have the senior project leader for the IJR in the Greater Horn and also conference organizer, Ms. Friederike Bubenzer, on the line. Good morning to you and thanks for joining us here on Breakfast Beat.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Only a pleasure. To start off with, there's obviously quite a need to look at some of the issues that we are sitting with as South Africans. We're almost reaching at crisis point in terms of general discontent. Could you maybe talk to us about this conference's aims and what problems it seeks to address?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The actual sort of an initial need for this conference really came from IJR's work on the continent. IJR is a peace-building organization that helps organizations and governments and civil society actors to sort of deepen and enforce their processes towards reconciliation. And it really emerged while we were working there in places like South Sudan and Uganda, which have seen horrific conflicts over the years, that we were assuming a little bit too much resilience, perhaps, and assuming that people themselves would heal, and that we could then just continue working with them and assume that they would then continue rebuilding their communities. And with time, it really became clear to us that the conflicts in these countries had had such an adverse impact on individuals, on communities, on families, on society at large, that we needed to have more of a conversation with people who are working specifically on mental health issues to improve our own work. And so that's really where it came from initially. Of course, the timing in South Africa now to be hosting it here, for us to be a South African organization, I think is critical. We are, of course, seeing high levels of xenophobia at the moment. We're seeing a lot of anger. We're seeing sort of simple frustrations expressed in very rash terms. And it would be easy just to say that we're traumatized and wounded, but we know that we are. We have, we are a country based on, and that is shaped by oppression, by marginalization, by identities that have been compromised. And so, certainly this conference will be looking at why South Africa is where it's at. What have we done and not done, and what has the result been in terms of where we're at today?
We're looking at psychosocial trauma and the fact that many South Africans, in many ways, while the conflicts may not have always been direct, there is that I would say psychosocial trauma in poverty and those kind of circumstances as well. And then if you mix that in with people that are coming from overseas, that are not overseas necessarily, but from other parts of Africa where there may be conflict, they might be suffering from the same. So how do you piece this together, all these mental health issues, and trying to find a condition of peace between all of us?
Look, that's what we're trying to do, but what we've realized, and I think it's an important first step, is that we've been working very much in silos. So the mental health practitioners who are working on sort of, trauma from a psychological and psychiatric point of view have been doing their thing, and we as peace builders have been doing our thing. And this conference is really about acknowledging that we all do good work, but our work is aimed at social transformation, ultimately, whether we're coming from a mental health point of view or from a peace-building point of view. And so what is really important is that we coordinate and integrate our strategies, that we speak to one another. And I think that's really important.
So talk to us about successful peace-building processes. How would it generally be implemented, and what would the steps be for us as a community that believe that we are in the right frame of mind, for example, to assist the process to apply more generally to people that may not be in our position?
I think it's difficult, really. What I should perhaps do is give a pre-conference scenario and a post-conference scenario, hoping that the conference will generate some new ways of thinking about this. But I think there are a few sort of key elements. We have to be inclusive. We have to base our processes on inclusive dialogue, where everybody is represented at the table, where those conversations are facilitated by people who include the need for tolerance, for respect, for mutual understanding. And that's really difficult, but I think it's really fundamental. And I think from what I've been reading in the media over the last month, Part of the problem that we have here, specifically with the xenophobia, is that there is a lack of understanding and a lack of knowledge in terms of where these people have come from and what they're actually escaping. Yes, many of them might be economic migrants, but that too is a reality of the 21st century and one that we need to understand. So, I think, and this is something that I believe in very firmly, that dialogue is a very, very important starting point towards. It's really an ongoing process. Social cohesion and reconciliation and peace building are processes, they're journeys that take a long period of time and that ultimately need to be sort of crafted and massaged from many different angles. So civil society can do its part, but the state has an important role as well, So working on psychosocial issues in a context where people are living in abject poverty is very, very difficult. And so that needs to be sort of coordinated as well. The same goes for sort of basic social services, education, healthcare, and so forth. I think it's really about us all coming together and having the conversation. And here in South Africa, I think it's going to be a very difficult one because it's going to have to entail us opening up and saying, yes, we are damaged. Yes, we are wounded. And now we need to do something about it 21 years after.
Yeah.
And at a point where we think we're actually okay when we're actually not.
Indeed, we're actually not. I think that's quite important. And I think people also misconstrue what mental health actually entails. People often think in order to be mentally healthy, all you need to do is be able to discern and make choices and not be kind of held down by medical instability of the mind. But mental health has a much broader definition than that. Could you maybe just talk to us about your definition or the definition that we should be working on in what mental health really is for the purpose of peace building?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about mental health, we're really talking about individuals that are able to function effectively in communities, make important decisions, and really operate at their sort of most effective in every regard, whether that's as a parent, as a spouse, as an employee. They can be economically productive. They are able to integrate peacefully into their environment, and so forth. And so when we talk about the economic productivity element, it's, of course, on the one hand, them being able to contribute and perhaps bring home a paycheck. But on the other hand, obviously, the state needs to provide that opportunity as well. So in terms of education and providing employment opportunities and so forth. But I think it's a very broad term and one that perhaps we hope over the next couple of days to expand upon a little bit so that, as you say, it's not just psychological, but it really means that when we are mentally healthy, we are socially healthy and we are able to be integrated, constructive members of our society that are ultimately happy.
We all want that, a happy society at the end of the day. Thanks so much for taking the time out to join us this morning and tell us more about this conference. We appreciate your time and wish you the very, very best.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Same to you. Goodbye.
Bye.
That was the voice of Ms. Friederike Bubenzer speaking to us about the IJR in partnership with the Netherlands-based War Trauma Unit, War Trauma Foundation rather, and their international conference which will be held between the 6th and the 8th of May.